Welcome to JetsCentralRadio with Mike O'Connor and Joe Caporoso from TurnOnTheJets.com.
Everywhere. I used to cop in Harlem. All of my Dominicanos right there up on Broadway. Pulled me back to that McDonald's. Took it to my stash spot, 560 State Street. Catch me in the kitchen like a Simmons whipping pastry. Cruising down A Street, off-white Lexus. Driving so slow, but BK is from Texas. Me, I'm out that Bed-Stuy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turn on the Jets Central Radio. We are back with our 7th episode, our last episode before training camp kicks off in Cortland this week. All very excited about that. We got a packed show tonight, so we're going to hop right into it. Our first guest, very happy to have him on tonight, New York Jets inside linebacker JoJo Dickson. JoJo, how you doing tonight? Thanks for joining us.
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You feeling ready for Cortland? When are you leaving to head up there?
We actually leave on Thursday, and I'm good and ready.
Nice, man. So, I guess at the top, talk about the vibe around the team and more particularly the defense throughout OTAs and minicamp. Is there a feeling that, you know, there's a special unit on that side of the ball that could really be one of the 5 to 10 best defenses in the league led by Rex Ryan?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the defense, we got a lot of swag. We got a lot of confidence. We believe that, no one can get through us. No one can run on us. No one can pass on us. And it's just the vibe kind of sitting down from Rex Ryan himself. And, it just trickles down from the vets to the younger guys. And, we all buy into the Rex Ryan system. And, we all got confidence in ourselves and what we can do as a unit.
Now, Rex's defense, would you say it's like particularly complex? I know it's a very versatile, type of system where a lot of people kind of assume where it's just a standard 3-4, but really it's a little more complex and versatile than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have, you can classify us as a 3-4 or a 4-3 if you want. It doesn't really matter. We kind of, adapt and change and it's not complex to the point where it's confusing. It's very player friendly, but yet, very versatile and very aggressive. So
now within that linebacker group, has there been any veterans that you've looked to, for leadership or as a mentor? Has it been David Harris in particular, or is there anybody else?
Yeah, definitely David Harris. I'm behind him right now, so I'm definitely learning a lot from him. Nick Ballore is also, a very helpful guy. So is Garrett McIntyre, Calvin Page. They're all great guys to be around. They all work very hard, both on the field and in the weight room and in the classroom. And, that's just the linebacking unit is a great bunch of guys and definitely a great bunch of guys to be around and learn from. So we're getting a lot from them.
Now, obviously, another place you can make an impact for the team this year would be on special teams. Are you, comfortable running with all the special teams unit? Is there one unit in particular that you really feel like you excel at?
I would say all of them. I work hard at, making my mark on this team, and I definitely know, being realistic, I know that special teams is going to be the place where I can, stand out and make my mark. So, I've been working hard on all phases of special teams, trying to make sure that I'm sound in every one. So, yeah.
All right. And then now, also on the defensive side of the ball, one of the more hyped up units or hyped up part of it has been the young defensive line. What have you seen? Obviously, you're lined up right behind those guys. What have you seen, from rookie Sheldon Richardson and, from Copels and Wilkerson moving around? Are we all right to be that excited about, the potential up front on this defense?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we got a very explosive, very aggressive group of D linemen. Sheldon came in and opened eyes right away with his work ethic, his hustle, his explosiveness, his athleticism. Copels, as everyone knows, he's a freak. I mean, size-wise, strength-wise, speed-wise. We got Big Mo, who's also, dominant down there, and they all been improving, every day through OTAs, and I think they're definitely gonna show some big things this year. You know, our big D tackles, Kenrick and Snacks, they've been dominating all through OTAs too. So, you know, it's exciting to see, you know, what they're going to do come game time.
Absolutely. I guess, you know, just one final question is, you know, clicking back through. Talk a little bit about your experience of playing college ball out in Idaho. At Idaho, what, you know, drew you to go there, and, you know, what was the experience like?
You know, I wasn't very highly recruited out of high school. My grades weren't, you know, up to par, and the recruiter out of Idaho actually helped me get there. And you know, he actually was recruiting one of my friends, and you know, just randomly saw me on film and decided to help work with me. Told me all the scores I needed to get in my SATs and what classes I need to bring the grades up and whatnot. And that's pretty much how I made my decision to go with Idaho. I had a couple other offers like UNLV and Idaho State, but you know, the recruiters and the coaches from Idaho were willing to work with me so much that I felt like that was a good place for me to go. And it was different. You know, it was definitely a change of pace coming from Maui, going to Moscow, Idaho, and it was very cold and snowy. But you know, the people there, they're real nice. They made the transition easy. I was embraced instantly on the field, and you know, I had a great time, a great college career there, and you know, I have no regrets or no complaints about it.
All right, man. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time. We'll be pulling for you out in Cortland this year and looking for your training camp. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right, that was Jets linebacker JoJo Dickson. We're going to hop into a quick break, and then we're going to be back with Frank Schwab from Yahoo Sports.
Football fans, check out ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also, check out the very popular Pro Football Central Radio Network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
All right, we are back with our second guest. Very happy to have Frank Schwab of Shutdown Corner at Yahoo Sports, one of the top NFL writers out there heading into the 2013-2014 season. How you doing tonight, Frank?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm 3 days out from Jets training camp in Cortland. Not the highest expectations this season going in. I guess I'll start off with the question everybody is asking and is going to be asking until we get a definitive answer. Who's the Jets starting quarterback week one?
You know, I think it's Sanchez just for this reason alone. Rex Ryan's on the hot seat. I think we all know that. I think that, you know, this is his last season unless they do something special. I think you just assume they have to make the playoffs. And, you know, starting Geno Smith helps you in 2014, but Rex Ryan's not going to be around, so who cares? Why would he take the lumps right now of starting a rookie quarterback when he's not going to see any of the fruits of that, you know, those bumps in the road? So I think it has to be Sanchez just because Rex Ryan knows he has to win now. He's won with Sanchez before, so why wouldn't you go with Sanchez? I just don't see, unless Geno's just unbelievable in the preseason or just, you know, Sanchez is terrible. I just don't see how you get around starting Sanchez week one.
Now with Sanchez, do you think there's any chance he finds some bit of the game that he had in 2010, which is the best he probably played down the stretch running in the playoffs of that year? Or are we, I mean, if he plays like he played down the stretch last year against Tennessee, against Arizona, I think Geno probably actually could beat him out. I mean, he was just putrid by that point. Obviously, there's been times he's been better at. Is it realistic to hope that he could find some kind of balance where he could just be a serviceable game manager again?
Sure. I mean, because he's shown it. I think that any time a guy has shown it and he hasn't been hurt, he's not washed up yet, he's not that old, so the fact that he has played well at times has to give you hope that you recapture that. I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. I think a lot of it has to do with the targets. I mean, he needs a guy like Santonio Holmes to stay healthy. He needs, you know, I mean, he's not going to be helped by not having Dustin Keller around anymore. I just don't think the offense around him has helped him at all. I don't think Sanchez is a very good quarterback at this point, but could he turn it around? I mean, weirder things have happened, and, you know, like you mentioned, he has played well before, so I can't say it's a 0% lost cause. He's not playing Gabbert. So I think there's some hope there. But, it's so hard to predict it. Like you said, he looked so bad by the end of last year. He just looked like a guy he just lost whatever confidence he had. He just didn't have it anymore. And maybe it comes back, but I don't know if the team around him is really going to support him that much. So, I mean, I think he can. I don't think he will. But again, I've seen weirder things happen.
I'm glad you brought up the receiving situation, and I don't think it's a hyperbole to say that as of today, the Jets have the worst group of wide receivers and tight ends in football. And that's based on the assumption that Santonio Holmes is probably going to start the season on the PUP list, which, considering that he can't run as of today, I'm going to guess he does. Now, I'm a big Jeremy Curley fan. I think he's a very good player, and I think the way that he produced last year, considering what was around him, was very impressive. But beyond that, you have really nothing but question marks. Who do you think the Jets will add somebody, and do you think they should add somebody? And if they do, who makes sense that could be on the open market or maybe on the trade market as we get a little closer to training camp cuts?
I mean, that's the problem. I mean, these guys are out there for a reason. I mean, you're not going to be able to go find a Hakeem Nicks right now. I mean, there's just I mean, who's really that much better than what you have on the roster? I mean, if they were that much better, they'd be signed by now. That's the way I always look at it. I think that, I like Hurley too. I saw a lot of him in college at TCU. I thought he was a really good, for what he does, receiver. He's not going to be a number one, but he can be a really good number three maybe. Stephen Hill, again, he was a rookie. We've kind of gotten spoiled, all these rookies coming in and playing just lights out right away. That doesn't happen for everybody. A lot, it usually takes guys time. But at least I know he was terrible for most of the season, but he at least showed sparks, at least something that he's not overmatched on the NFL level, that there's something there to mine. And I think that he could, maybe do something. And then, whatever. Santonio is a guy who I've always kind of liked more than everybody else does. And he was playing at a decent level last year before he got hurt. Now, I mean, the health is a huge question mark at this point, how he can bounce back. But if he can, I think, is that a decent three receivers around? It's probably the best you're going to do, considering you just, Wayne Corvette's not walking through that door. Keyshawn Johnson's not walking through that door. I mean, this is who you got. I think you got to roll with them.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Hakeem Nicks. Maybe next offseason when we're flush with cap space, we can take a run at him. But let's talk about some more positive points of the team. And looking through this roster, I would say, staying on offense, there is hope for a potentially strong running game if Chris Ivory could stay healthy, if Mike Goodson is cleared of his legal issues and could stay healthy. I think those two guys have a lot of talent and will get the opportunity to succeed here. And I think up front, at least in terms of run blocking, you have some really nice pieces with Mangold, Ferguson. Austin Howard is a solid run blocker, still has a ways to go in pass protection. And obviously we're hopeful that Willie Colon can stay healthy. Do the Jets, am I being overly optimistic and thinking the Jets could have a strong running game this season?
Oh, no, not at all. I thought they were decent last year. I didn't think they really got enough credit for Sean Green. I thought had a decent year, considering nobody had to respect the passing game last year. I mean, why would you have a safety deep ever against that team last year? So I thought in lieu of it all, they ran the ball pretty well. And I really like Chris Ivory. He's one of those guys who, I mean, I don't want to put this on him, but he reminds me a little bit of a Michael Turner, where a guy who just doesn't get a chance, doesn't get a lot of carries, but the carries he does get, he's really efficient. He has great averages. He does things you're really impressed by. And maybe with more carries and a bigger chance, he really explodes. I love that trade. I thought it was great. I really, to be honest, don't know why the Saints made it. I think Chris Ivory's a heck of a lot better than Mark Ingram. I don't see why they don't see that. So I really like that move for the Jets. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. But again, if you have no passing game whatsoever, it makes it really tough on the guys up front, and it makes it really tough on Chris Ivory. So I think that they have to at least have a threat of the running game or a threat of the passing game to open things up for the running game. But I do think they're going to be able to run the ball pretty well.
Let's hop over to Rex Ryan's baby, the defense. Up front, I think is really the strength of this entire team, with Muhammad Wilkerson, with Copels entering his second year, and with Sheldon Richardson, will add another versatile piece who could really get after the quarterback more so than a guy like Mike DeVito could last year. Do you think Quentin Coples, in particular, could be a guy who is a 10 to 12 sack guy this season?
It's a bit lofty, but yeah, why not? I mean, he's a good player. I mean, they drafted him where they did for a reason. He's got talent. So, I agree with you. I do think that up front they are pretty good. I don't think this defense is really the problem. I know they weren't maybe as great as they were 2-3 years ago, but I think, they are still really good, and they have a really good defensive coach too. I think, a lot of Rex Ryan's bluster and all that kind of overshadows the fact that I think he's a really good X's and O's coach. I still think he knows defense as well as anybody in the game, so I think that helps too. But I do think the Jets are going to be pretty good up front. I like Wilkerson a lot. I think he's a heck of a player. So, like you said, you add some pieces and they keep investing up front. I think that's really going to pay off.
Kind of moving around the division, are you buying into the Dolphins hype? Do you think they're a legitimate wild card contender, or do you think that, with Jeff Ireland, this is going to be another 7-9, 8-8 team? This will be the last year for him as the team's GM.
Yeah, I think that's more accurate than them being a wild card contender. I'm a wild card contender, sure. Wild card team, no. I mean, you look and they lost just as much as they gained. I mean, you lose a lot of good players in the off season, and nobody talks about that because of all the big signings they made. But they lost a lot too. You Reggie Bush, Jake Long, and guys who really were kind of key contributors for them. So I know Jeff Ireland had to spend this money to save his job, and it's probably going to set the Dolphins back as a franchise for the contract can come to some point. I don't like them that much. I think they're solid. I think they are an 8-8, 9-7 team. Maybe that sneaks them into the playoffs. But I just don't see, unless Tannehill really, and I like Tannehill, unless Tannehill really takes a step forward, I just don't see them being a 10-win type of team.
Hitting on Buffalo real quick, do you think at what point of this season do you think E.J. Manuel ends up being the starting quarterback? Do you think they just roll with him from the beginning, or do you think they'll go with Kevin Kolb start the season?
Yeah, he's a guy. That's a completely different situation than the Jets. I think right now that what reason would they have not to start E.J. Manuel? You might as well roll with him. You've seen what Kevin Kolb can do. And I think Kevin Kolb's maybe a little bit better than people think, but he's not good, and he's not your future. E.J. Manuel's your future. Invest in him. Go all in. Take your lumps this year. You're going to be around next year to benefit from it. So I think E.J. Manuel should start week 1. Whether they do or not, I'm not sure. But, for Doug Marrone, I mean, what does he have to lose really putting E.J. Manuel in there? I don't think E.J. is going to be that much worse than Kevin Kolb would be.
So the saddest part probably about all this is that, is there any way New England isn't resting their starters in week 16 and 17? I mean, is there any way they don't win this division by 2 or 3 games?
Probably not. That's the thing, and everybody is kind of the narrative on the Patriots has been, oh my God, they're in such trouble. Aaron Hernandez, Wes Welker, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's hard to replace those guys, but the Patriots, until I see the Patriots not win 10 games, I just refuse to believe that they're not that team, that they're not one of the top 5 teams in the NFL. They still have a Hall of Fame quarterback. They still have plenty of weapons on offense. Their defense is getting better, I think. So, I think the AFC East and the AFC West are kind of already done in many ways. It'd be a huge shock for anybody if the Patriots and Broncos don't win those divisions. So, yeah, I still think it's a Patriots division, and I just don't even think it's close right now.
All right. Last question. After New England, Denver, Baltimore, in whatever order you would put them, who's the 4th and 5th best team in the AFC heading into this year? Who's kind of that next tier of contenders?
Oh, I don't think Baltimore's 3rd best. I think Cincinnati's your 3rd best team.
Really?
I think this is their year to take a big step forward. Yeah, I think their defense is really underrated. It's really, really good. Geno Atkins is as good of a defensive player as there is. I think they're solid on all 3 levels on defense. And, people, the thing I don't get about it, the Andy Dalton brushback has been, he's not good enough because he didn't play well in those playoff games. Well, he's coming into his 3rd year, and in his first 2 years, he threw for 20 touchdowns each season. Go back and look at the guys who have done that. It is a very, very small team picture. He is fine. He is developing at a rate that anybody would take out of most quarterbacks. No, he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he's been very good. And what they lack was playmakers on offense. They have A.J. Green and nothing else. They had plotting Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, But now you add a Tyler Eifert, you add a Gio Bernard. Those are two game-breaker type of guys that they desperately needed. I think if both of those guys play like they should, I watched a ton of them last year, at Notre Dame and North Carolina respectively, and I think if both of those guys play as they should, they are your game breakers. They are your playmakers that you just desperately needed, and I think that takes the Bengals to another level. And they've been close. I think they won 7 of their last 8 of their last 9 regular season games last year. So they shouldn't be sneaking up on people, but it still seems they are. Not a lot of people talking about the Bengals, but I really, really like that roster, and I think this year they take kind of the next step.
All right, Frank, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, and we'll be following you all throughout the season.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Football fans, looking to get healthy this year? Now is the time, and I have the perfect place for you. Save 10% at onit.com/football radio. Exclusive PFC radio listeners save 10% off their order. That's onit.com, ONNIT.com/football radio.
All right, that was Frank Schwab of Shutdown Corner over at Yahoo Sports. Second guest we've had on, also counting Vincent Frank from Bleacher Report, who said Cincinnati would be better than Baltimore this year. Really interesting. Obviously, the Bengals have a lot of talent, and I think he made a good point about them adding Gio Bernard and Eifert to that offense to make it a little more dynamic. We will see the Jets play both the Bengals and the Ravens this year in that kind of brutal stretch in the middle of their season that could very well make or break their year. It's going to be very important that the Jets get off to at least a 2-2 start, considering, their first 4 games, 3 of the 4 of them are against teams who weren't playoff teams last year. That's going to be just about it for tonight. Training camp kicks off this Friday in Cortland, so obviously stay with us at turnonthejets.com. Chris Gross dropped an article today on his observations. We're happy to have him back in the fold heading into August. We'll have our roundtable tomorrow. We'll be just all making our predictions for training camp. And obviously we'll be loaded with content as everything goes down in Cortland. And, football is almost here. It's finally here, real football. Sundays spent in front of the TV for like 16 hours. One quick thing I definitely wanted to make sure I shouted out. We participated in the U Stadium flag football tournament over this past weekend, which was put together by U Stadium and Santonio Holmes' charity. So definitely want to shout out Santonio, who came out not just for a little bit, which is something you'll see from different athletes at some of these charity events. He was there all day in the seemingly 105-degree heat, interacting with all the fans, talking with everybody, taking as many pictures and signing as many autographs as a human possibly could over that course of time. And unfortunately, one of the players actually suffered a nasty leg injury. He was going for a pass. I'm pretty sure he broke his leg outright. And we were out on Roosevelt Island, which is kind of like Alcatraz for anyone who's from here. So it took forever for an ambulance to get out there. And to Holmes' credit, he sat with the guy the entire time. And, the word around the tournament is that he's going to pay for his surgery and rehab. So definitely a stand-up move and really a class act from Holmes. I know sometimes he gets a bad rep from some in the media, but I can only pass along what I see, and that's what I saw, and I didn't see any of that. So that's going to wrap up our episode. Make sure to stay with us again at turnonthejets.com, and we'll see everybody next week.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.